Okay.
Hi guys, my name is JenniferLong. I'm the Executive Director of Children's Protection Center that is located in Little Rock, Arkansas. We work with kids who've been abused, and we started doing the River Cities Dragon Boat Festival maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I can't even remember. So Penny had asked, I think some of us to put together some of our thoughts on what's been successful, what our challenges have been. And so I'm just going to go down the list of the questions she's asked and share a little bit with you guys about how we've made this work for us and our mission and how we've been able to raise some money. So Penny's first question was, what do you contribute to your consistent fundraising success? And I feel like we have gone through several levels of getting better at this. And so I'm going to kind of start at the beginning. We hadn't ever done anything like Dragon Boat before. We actually had no events under our belt. We were a really young organization with a very small budget. And what we needed to do was kind of maximize, get the biggest bang for our buck. Not only raise money, but also get the word out about us. So we chose to do this event because it was so different than anything anyone else had done. We were the first Dragon Boat Festival in our area. So we were able to capitalize on that. And then we built in, there's this awesome like team event that Dragon Boat brings. And so we made sure that we worked with our teams. So by contacting 20 people and sharing our message, that was able to kind of go out and they were able to be ambassadors for our center and share more about CPC out into the community. So that's what first attracted us to it. Also, our mission's pretty amazing about child abuse. We are a children's advocacy center, if some of you have those in your communities. And so everything we do is focused on teamwork. So we were really able to communicate to our potential sponsors and team registration folks, our companies that were going to have teams, really communicate to them about how much they could be on our team too in fighting child abuse. So that was kind of an early message that we had. And we also really focused on those companies that were going to be looking for those unique opportunities. We in our area, we have so many galas and we have so many golfing tournaments and those types of things that really the fact that we were doing Dragon Boat Festival and no one even knew what that was really exciting to people. And one of the things that we did to try to make it even more unique was we made it into a festival. So it's more than just a race. So when we're talking about the event to people, we do a Friday night event and an all-day Saturday event. So people are actually setting up their tailgating space on Friday. We have a huge party on Friday night, and we schedule a lot of our team practices on Friday night. So it kind of gets the blood pumping, gets everyone kind of excited about it. And we have a band playing, and we have some other little competitions. We've tried several things over the years, and some have been great and some not so great. But the biggest piece of it was that we were creating a celebration. And again, we're raising money, but we're also sharing the message about child abuse in our community, which was really important. So our event eventually has grown to bring about 2,000 to 3,000 people out over the course of that weekend. We've gotten up to about 45 teams, and before COVID, we were set to have our best year in 2020. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the event. But really, I think that our financial success in this event has been through the selling of it consistently. We knew our first few years were not going to be that great in raising money. We did make a profit, but we knew that it was an investment. And so we wanted to build as much festiveness and hoopla around the event so that when people came out and did it, or they could get on another company's team, they were excited to be on that team. So it's something that these companies wanted to do for their staff because it was an exciting event that they did every year and they could always look forward to it. So we really tried to build that team building aspect when we were approaching our potential teams. And of course, our sponsors as well. Almost all of our sponsors have teams out there. So our sponsorship packages range from about $2,500 to $20,000 in the past. Sometimes each year we might go down to $15,000 for that top sponsorship, just depending on the climate. But we developed a package with really competitive packaging, and that was really fine-tuned to what specific companies want. And that's something that we started to do over the years. And last year, I think we really hit the nail on the head with it. So we would approach companies about being involved in Dragon Boat. By this point, they'd already heard about it and they wanted to get involved, but maybe they wanted to get involved in a way we hadn't thought of. And so our development and marketing director really had a great way of reaching out to them and creating fine-tuned package pieces that would attract them. So maybe that company was interested in providing dinner or lunch for all of our teams at some point. And so finding a way to connect that company to our constituents or to the folks that were out there. And I also think that we have a real dynamic mission and a really dynamic communication with people about it. So we are always talking about child abuse in our community, and that really attracts people. They can have a good time and they're still helping child abuse, which is not a good, fun subject. But again, we really strike home the fact that this is a team approach. It is our community's response to child abuse. It's our community's responsibility. And so we tie in that business aspect, which is their responsibility to help us be successful in the event. I do have notes, so I'm going to review those notes real quick to make sure I haven't missed anything. This is a great point, that by being involved in our event, they learned a lot more about Children's Protection Center, and because it was so fun, then they went out and talked to other companies about it. And so a lot of times we'll have companies each year that are like, well, I want to have a team, but I want to make sure I'm right next to that company's team. And then, so they're new to us. And then next year we know that we're going to reach out to them and say, okay, they gave us registration fee this year. We're going to reach out to them next year about $2,500. And a lot of them want to do that. And we also developed a race day package. So sometimes we have community teams that were raising their own money to register, but most of our teams are corporate. So their corporate level were that they would pay for their registration. And then we would say, well, hey, why don't you pay a little bit extra and we will provide all the tents and catering for you for the entire weekend. And so we were able to make some more revenue off of that. And then those companies don't have to worry about any of that process either. Let's see. We also did some push on social media, of course, but one of the ways we try to make money on this is to try to spend as little as possible. So we don't put a ton of money into our marketing, actually. We have found word of mouth, and really the social media piece has been the best part of it. When we go straight to the company leadership and really talk about how they can get involved in health and fitness or team building, that's where there is a lot of buy-in. And because it's a fun event, and again, there's no other group around here or even in Arkansas doing this, it's really, really popular. Even folks will even travel into Little Rock to be able to compete. So I think that word of mouth and how exciting the event is makes other companies or makes people want to be a part of it that day. So I think I've answered probably the next question that Penny has asked. It's, what methods do you implement to achieve maximum financial success? Getting sponsors, online giving platforms, communication with teams about pledging, use of committees, etc. How does it all function? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about teams and how we really try to maximize our pledging. And we have been pretty successful. I feel like this is another jumping off point for us after COVID kind of passes over. But we require registration from every team is $1,000, which is pretty cheap for registrations around the country, and we know that. But we want to get them bought in. Then we have the teams come and we suggest that every team member raise $100. So that would be $2,500, okay, if every team's made up of 25 people. But we don't make it a requirement. What we do is kind of use that encouraging, hey, look at what these other teams are doing kind of approach. So we have been able to get kind of our lead teams to commit to raising more money. They do that through lots of ways, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we help them structure their pledging process. But we really try to articulate these different teams out there who are going to raise money. So let's say we have an accounting firm, and they've raised $2,000, and their name is placed next to a bank's name, and the bank has only raised $200. We are publishing that information all the time. And so what we found was there's kind of this internal competition that exists, that teams, if they haven't raised any money, they at least want to be on the leaderboard. So they at least want to get up to $500. They don't want to be that one hovering around 200 or $70. Like, it's just a slap in their face. So there's this kind of internal competition that we built through that process. And then we also try to sell this to the individual paddlers. Remember, I talked a little bit about how our message helps us, or the event helps us get our message out to more people, so that we're not just talking to the people making the decision at the top to pay the registration fee. We then ask them to articulate or to define who their captains are. So we have 2 captains for every team. And then we reach out to those captains, and we have created a kind of workbook or resource guide for them that has all kinds of ideas about how to pledge, how to motivate their teams. We help get them in touch with other teams who have done well. Some of our teams come from different backgrounds. Some of our teams maybe can't fundraise because they themselves are their own nonprofit organizations, so they're not going to go out and fundraise publicly for us. So we talk about different things they can do internally. Some organizations don't, they have a policy against fundraising inside of their organization, and so they can't, or there's a blackout period for whatever reason. So we kind of just meet them where they are and try to help them. We support the captains in coming up with ways to raise money. So we don't just let them go on their own and figure it out on their own. We have a committee that stays in touch with the captains. And then we also meet with the teams, those members as they sign up, we'll meet with them separately as a team. Sometimes we'll bring them pizza or we will bring them coffee. And if we can only have 7 of the paddlers there, then we'll only talk to 7. If we can have all 25, then we talk to all 25. So again, we're spreading our mission, and we talk about everyone raising $100. People take that to heart and they do the best they can. We've had a couple of teams that wouldn't let people paddle unless they'd raised $100. So it becomes kind of an internal competition there too. So I think the biggest thing that helped us in the early years was creating a strong committee that did team support. We call that our team support committee. And they are the ones that stay in touch with those team captains, manage all of the information getting to them, not just about the logistics of the event day or race weekend, but also about the logistics of raising money. We use an online source. It's now GoFundMe. It was originally CrowdRise. I'll be really honest, we're not as happy with GoFundMe as what we were with CrowdRise. But what it's able to do is we create an overall festival page, and then each team has their own separate page. And as people raise funds to put into that page, that's where that leaderboard is created. So you'll be able to track what team is raising the most money. I know that some festivals have had some success in defining individuals that raise the most money, and we've just really focused it more on teams. So teams can create their own competitions within their paddlers to do that, but a lot of our larger companies don't want to saddle, because a lot of the people who paddle tend to be the folks that aren't necessarily in leadership, and so they don't all have the disposable income that others in the company might have. So they don't really place a importance necessarily on the individual person raising money, but as the company raising money together, which is great. So then they have more people that come out on festival day too. So it's not just the paddler, it's all their supporters, and they'll use the day actually as like a company picnic, so that we're getting not just the paddlers, but all those other supporters and people who are making donations to us all day long or making donations to the team beforehand. So that CrowdRise site is really good for us to track that, and it's a good way for, I hate to use the word shame, I don't mean it in that like a shaming way, but it's a good way for the teams to see what other teams are doing and how they maybe need to step up their game a little bit. We help teams understand too. We give them ideas, like we have teams that do chili cook-offs, we have teams that do bake sales, we have teams that do garage sales, Jeans Day at work at some of the banks. Our state police team does Donut Day, so that they bring donuts every Friday. You pay $1 for a donut, they get those donuts donated. We try to really educate our teams on all the different ways that they can be a part of this. And so I feel like that's really contributed to the success of our pledges. And different years we take dips. We had one team that consistently raised at least $15,000, and they stepped out a couple of years ago, and we felt that in our pledges. But we also saw that what we really are looking for is our teams to consistently raise $2,500. The big ones are great, but you really want to message to your teams that it's just you want your teams to raise $2,500 in pledges. And if you have all your teams raising that can be really, really significant to your bottom line. Let's see. So what we do, the way we kind of structure it is usually pre-COVID time, we have our event in June. Around November of the previous year is when we kind of have our kickoff meeting. So we meet in a local bar once a month. We get a back room. Our organization will purchase the appetizers. We spend about $40 to buy appetizers for everybody. And then all of those committee members they buy their own drinks. And then each person who joins in that group, we have anywhere from 12 to 20 people who usually attend. And they kind of get assigned to specific areas. Some of them might be in charge of our food trucks. Some of them might be in charge of that team support piece, and that's really in depth. Some people might just be helping with some marketing or helping with social media. They might be very specific, so they're just going to help us on getting our drink stations set up. Or there have been years where we had a parking crew. So different people find different ways to plug in. But we found a way early on that it's like these people, they really feel like this event is their event. so they have skin in the game on making it successful. They help us get teams too. Sometimes they bring their own teams, but then we have consistency throughout the years, and a lot of those folks have stayed with us year after year. Before our center was really able to grow and get a marketing and development program up and running, we had a small committee that handled that. But now we really do focus on our marketing and development director, who takes care of all of that or leads groups in that, just because she's able to commit her time to that, which I think has been much better. So if you have in-house staff that can handle that, I really would suggest you do that. If not, it can be done with a committee too. It's just a little bit more disjointed. So we do this in November, probably until about February or March. We really push sponsorship. And then in February and March is when we start really pushing teams. So we try to sell all of our sponsorships before that March time. Once March hits, that's a real focus on just recruiting teams. And different years we've had different levels of success, but we've always had, except for our first year, we've always had more than 30 teams. And again, we were probably on course to have about 45 to 50 teams this last year. So once we get our teams registered, that's when our team support comes in and helps talk to them about how to raise money and gives them information about logistics, how to outfit their teams. Some of our teams are really competitive and some are just out there to have a good time. So we try to figure that out early on. If those teams are going to be competitive, we want to help them understand that this is a real sport and there's a technique to it. So we connect them with different resources online so that they can understand that. Again, those teams that really, maybe their paddlers aren't as active as others, they're just out there to have a good time. We don't spend as much time with them on that. But what we tried to do is create an event that all of those different folks could enjoy. So the Friday night party happens, we have the practices, then we also created ways people could win lots of prizes. You didn't have to be the fastest boat to win a prize. So we have the best t-shirt contest. T-shirt design. We have the best booth, which is a big deal. So some teams love decorating, other teams could not care less about it. But it's really neat to go out and see all the festiveness that people kind of bring. They'll have flags up. They've made their own flags. They bring them back. Our teams that have won prizes, for the past 8 years, will bring out like their trophy table, and they want to display their trophies to brag to everybody about it. So our team support will help teams kind of prepare for race weekend in that way. And then of course race weekend is crazy, and it's so awesome to have that committee because they've been with us every year. They kind of know how things work. But we do drop off on Friday morning, so everyone has to come in, all the teams drop off their items, and then they have to leave the event space. And then they can come back and set it up. But after years of working with this, we've had traffic issues, people almost getting run over. So we've learned to kind of get the cars in there early in the day, and then they have to be out by about 4 o'clock that afternoon. Our party kicks off around 6 o'clock. Practices actually start happening at noon on that day. There's music, it's a lot of fun. And then we do some shuttling. We are using golf carts right now for that because we have folks parking a lot far away to be able to walk up to our space. But really, we've never had that many people complain about it. So that's been really good. Golf carts aren't the best thing to use. Right now, we don't have any other resources, but we're working on that. So we have volunteers that will drive, 6-seater golf carts and bring people in. Most people are able to walk, so that's not a problem. But it's another way to earn some money. We have tip jars on those things as well. We sell t-shirts too. We don't charge for parking, and we don't charge for admittance into the event. Again, because of the work we do, we want all of our events a lot of times to be things that everyone can come to, that our clients could come to. And so it's a community event. And one of the reasons we get so many things for free, I think, is because it's a community event. So we pay nothing for our venue. We take an entire lake and an entire park. We take over an entire park. And they charge us nothing for that. So, and again, it's a community event. We want to build community. And so we have so many people that just walk up and see it. They hadn't heard about it. And then the next year they want to have a team. So it's been really helpful for us. Let's see. So next question. From your experience, what would you say keeps people excited and engaged in this event year after year? And I think I've probably answered that question plenty, so I hope you guys can feel that. It's just there's a general excitement. And when people have done it before, they build a party. And when we have younger teams, they'll be out there on Friday night pretty late, partying a little bit. Some of our teams get hotel rooms close by because they probably shouldn't be driving. So there's that piece of it that people get really excited about. But then we also have a kids area. It really is a family event too. And so it kind of has become this thing that when you've done it a few years, you want to come back out and do it. And for a lot of these companies, it's one of the few things they're able to do for their staff that's really team building and just a fun party. And while I'm on that topic, like, we've really tried to encourage our corporate teams to get their leadership out there so that they can connect with their own employees. So we've had situations where the CEO will come out and he barbecues for the whole team because everyone's tailgating. I think of like a lot of Dragon Boat events. So we have this tailgating atmosphere, and so the CEO's out there barbecuing for everybody, and it just really connects people to the employees to their leadership too. And so I think that from what the feedback we get a lot of positive feedback in that way, and those teams want to come back for that reason. So then the final question is, how do you think the pandemic and the year that was 2020 will impact your event in 2021? I don't know how much of this is wishful thinking. Dragon Boat makes up quite a bit of our budget, and we were very lucky and thankful last year that we were still able to raise money. Almost nearly 100% of our teams and our sponsors said just keep the money for 2020. Don't even count it towards 2021. We'll be back here in full force. So far, though, usually we would have started planning for 2021 in November. But we put the brakes on that a little bit. We are still planning for it, but we haven't kicked it off with our committee yet. We're waiting to do that in February. The COVID cases are rising right now, but the vaccines are just now being offered. So we're really hoping that by the spring, it's going to start looking up. Not that it will be better, but we also know that our companies aren't going to be able to fully commit to an event until COVID is that everybody can have some breathing room from it. So when we're going out and talking about sponsorships right now, it's really talking about please support CPC. We've got a date in June, and then we're looking at an alternate date in September. And we're hoping that by being able to market those dual dates, that companies will be able to jump on board a little sooner than what they might generally would, because they can't really commit to an event in June yet. But we really don't know. And I am super wishful thinking because this financing means so much to our center and the services we provide. But I do believe that when COVID is over and people are able to get out and celebrate, they're going to want to kind of give, just the middle finger kind of to 2020 and say, you know what, we are out here this summer. We weren't able to do it last summer. We're out here this summer. It's going to be even bigger and better because people are looking so much forward to just getting out and doing the things that they were used to doing. So maybe that's wishful thinking right now, but that's what I'm kind of banking on. So I do think that from initial response, people are already emailing me saying, hey, is Dragon Boat still on? What do I need to do? So that's also positive for us too. So yeah, I can't tell you, I've enjoyed Penny's guidance and leadership so much. We took a huge step in doing this years ago, and we would never have done it without her support. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact me or our development and marketing director, Terry Todd, who is my camera person right now. So you guys can reach out to us at Children's Protection Center. We'll be happy to help or send any of our collateral to you guys to show you what we've been able to build. Terry kind of revamped everything last year, and I think that made all the difference in us being able to potentially have one of the best years we were ever going to have, but also keep a lot of that money that was already committed to us. So thanks so much, guys. Paddles up.